It's lovely to see you by Zoom at the very least. Once upon a time, in the old days, the charity operated in an entirely different manner, and either I or the master or whoever was nearby would come along to those old-fashioned things called school assemblies that apparently you used to have before COVID. Perhaps you still do, I'm not sure. Yeah. Then I would speak to the children. We would talk a little bit about what whoever, in this case Janet, has applied for. Try and explain a little bit about the history of the livery companies, that they're very ancient and they're related to the old trades of the City of London itself, but still these days are charities. And then I would normally present a cheque. That was always a good question, asking the children whether they knew what a cheque was, because got some quite interesting answers on occasions over the time. But anyway, so we've had to reinvent ourselves, of course, following the extraordinary year or so. I don't need to tell you, you've lived through it the whole time. We now are engaging with our schools this way. Ironically, technology appears to have done us a favour in this particular instance, because it really does allow us to, well, rather than do the old-fashioned things of writing long-winded reports and then perhaps, you know, getting them bound up and sent through and all of the rest of it. With today's technology, as I'm sure Paul has encouraged you, we'd love to have a video, we'd love to have a YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel now, high-tech stuff for a 350-year-old organisation. And there are many, many things about our company. And then, of course, once you look at that, you can see one of the other 109 livery companies that exist in the City of London. So we are one of the poorer ones, sadly, but we do what we do. And Glasson Society appears to have a very major impact on the schools that we work with. So that, I suppose, is just a quick introduction from us. So I throw it over to you. Could you tell us a little bit about your school? How many children do you have? A little bit about the area. Obviously, as you've heard from Paul, I used to live in Stratford-upon-Avon, so I know Sutton. We used to have friends in Sutton. But for the benefit of those others that don't have it, it would be lovely to hear. So I'm not sure who would start. Would it be you, Catherine, perhaps? Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. As you know, I'm Catherine Lewis, the head teacher of HollyField, and thank you again for inviting me to this meeting. A great opportunity for us just to say a little bit about HollyField and who we are. So we are a two-form entry primary school. That means there are 2 classes in each year group. We have about 420 children on roll here in Sutton Coldfield, of which we have about 31% of our children who are entitled to pupil premium funding. So we do have some children with some additional challenges. And the school is part of the Learning Trust for Excellence, which is a group of 11 schools. We have formed a cooperative trust because we felt that working together for the benefit of children who are currently at our schools and children who are yet to attend the schools was something that was really important to us, so that children in all the schools across the trust would benefit from head teachers working together, subject leaders working together, children being able to work together, and so on. In terms of HollyField in particular, I think one of our strengths is that we are ambitious for all of our children. We've thought very carefully about, you know, who the HollyField child is and what's really good about them, and also sort of what we want for them for their future. And we've worked together as a staff quite a bit on what is it that we feel we need to do in terms of getting experiences for our children, and what, more importantly, we want in terms of our curriculum for the children. And we've got a curriculum intent statement, which is sort of, I've got it here, it's just about giving our children the skills and confidence to really believe that they can achieve anything they want to. And that's for us to create new experiences for them and getting them excited about learning, because we want to take off the lid of learning and say to children, if you want to do it, you actually can. And in order to support this, in order to support the work that we're doing with our partners in the Trust, one of the things that we want to do is look at how we resource the school and how we look at the experiences that we can give the children so that their learning experiences sort of are really, really positive. And sort of overarching all of this is a culture of ambition that we have for all of our children. And I think it goes without saying that all the staff are in agreement that we will do anything for our children. One of the difficulties that all schools are facing at the moment is funding, and the difficulties that we have in terms of being able to do as much as we would like with some limited funding. And what we are looking to do is to work with other schools in our trust where we can share good practice and share experiences and also share resources. So where we've been able to maybe attract funding for a particular project or some particular resources, that we can share that across the schools. We've been able to do that for the odd project here and there, but it's now getting to the point where in order for staff to benefit from each other's expertise, being able to really focus on some key projects is something that we're really keen to do. And, you know, in terms of our children at HollyField, they really are keen creative learners, and they've got a wealth of talent that we need to tap into, especially if we have the right equipment for them and the right resources. And we've talked about wanting to buy telescopes for the children to use during our annual space camp. And when they stay in the hall overnight with the teachers and they have sleepovers, it's great fun. But actually, it's not just about the fun, it's about the learning as well. And these are experiences that they're never going to forget. You know, seeing it on YouTube, seeing it on the internet is one thing, but actually really experiencing it is when it brings it all to life. During the first lockdown, the children that did come to school, they made some tissue paper stained glass windows. And one of the things they said was they thought it'd be great if they could make a real one with the school logo. And how exciting would that be if we could really inspire the children to get involved in that? So just to sum up really, a little bit about our school. We as teachers, we don't want to limit our children's life chances. Rather, we want to explore every opportunity and avenue that we can, because at HollyField, we're a school where every second counts. So thank you again for inviting me, just to give a little overview of HollyField and where we're at and where our ambitions are at. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Janet, would you like to say something now, and do you want me to show the film?
You can show the film, that'd be great, yeah.
Okay, fine, just 1 second, I should do that.
I think just to say that our Year 6 children made it, the children that have been in for key workers during lockdown.
Brilliant.
Don't know that I've quite got it just yet, just a second. Can you see it?
Yes, it's a bit large.
Okay, well that's all right, that's fine, it gets
It's smaller.
Discovering, doing and fun. Science is a way of learning about the natural world through observation and logical reasoning. You can learn a lot about science. Scientists discover a lot of new things that we can learn.
Science is a subject where you can find, learn and experiment on new things like black holes. Black holes have been unknown for a very long time, and scientists have been wondering what they are, but it's amazing how much stuff they've already found.
Well, there you have it.
Goodness me.
Well done.
Fascinating. I think some of them probably know more than some of us do already.
I was thinking that.
Oh dear.
Certainly don't
Well,
remember
I think so.
knowing that amount of things about different
Very impressive.
aspects. Yes, at that age. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I mean, it just shows it's the enthusiasm and the inspiration, isn't it? Mark, what's your part in this? Sorry, I wasn't here to find out exactly at the very beginning, but you're here clearly as part of the school.
I'm one of the members of the governing board. So
okay.
Sit on the governing body, and so I've worked with Janet in terms of and science lead, I suppose, from a governor's point of view.
Very good.
Yes, so thank you for the opportunity for this, and it's welcome. Thank you.
Not at all. Mark, and are you a parent or?
Yeah, I am. Yes, I started as a parent governor. I'm sort of now a co-opted, but yes, I've. My eldest now left HollyField. He's moved into secondary school, but my daughter, my youngest, is still at HollyField. So yes, she's played an active part there.
Fantastic. Well, good for you. I think a lot of the schools that we talk to really struggle to find governors, and I guess the head's nodding. It really is hard. So well done you. I mean, it's giving of one's time these days is difficult enough without anything else. But I suppose you do have a vested interest as your daughter's there still, and your other child's also been there, so it's brilliant.
Question from me is that we're learning from some of the schools that they have some language difficulties to get over, with proportions of their students not having English as their first language. Do you have that problem at HollyField?
No, we have one or two children who come to the school either from abroad or whose home language is not English. But we find that they soon catch up. They soon you know, take up the language, and we have very, very few difficulties. We haven't had a huge influx of children coming into our school from, say, Poland or from other countries necessarily. The odd child here and there comes to us from abroad, but we've been very lucky. And we tend to find as well that when children do come to us with English as an additional language, because very young children are like sponges, they actually they learn English very, very quickly. So just being immersed in the playground, in the classes, we find that you know, they make really good progress and they pick up the language extremely quickly.
Yes, it's amazing in this country, the difference. I mean, how far are you from Coventry, roughly, mile-wise? 15, 20 miles? Maybe? 15,
20 miles maximum,
yeah, something like that. I'm just trying to give everybody just a quick view. I mean, the school yesterday in the centre of Coventry had 40 languages to deal with, which is pretty extraordinary, isn't it, really?
Yes.
So I'm sure you have different challenges.
Yes.
You know, that's an unusual one, isn't it? And I think also it's I would agree with you entirely. I think the children, because they're immersed into the language, they tend to, but of course their parents don't necessarily get that in that instance. But it's interesting, isn't it? I was also very interested to see that your space camping as well. Great fun, very, very good. I always like to think that when we do a project with a school, and in fact I can give you examples of certain schools that we've done 3, 4, 5 projects with over a period of years. Maybe that's something, if you want telescopes, if you don't have them already, that we'll be quite happy to have a chat. So once we can see you using all this kit, Janet, he says pointedly, and done another fabulous video showing us what you're doing with the stuff, and the kids having all the creepy crawlies and the wonderful things they can go digging around looking for. Maybe that is another angle. We're about to, we've just made a relationship, and in fact I don't think I'm speaking out of turn. I think a lot of people have heard me say this, but we're about to go a very long way from London, in fact nearly as far away as we can, because I've been in contact with a teaching trust down in Cornwall, and they are actually going to be doing exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about. But I don't know whether you're aware, there is the Newquay Spaceport down there, which has the longest runway in the United Kingdom. I know this is trivia. I didn't know that either, so don't think I'm being clever. I'm not. And they're going to be working. Apparently, Newquay Spaceport, by the way, is going to be launching a satellite next year. So that might be quite fun, and I'm hoping that we can network with all the schools, and maybe you guys, might be interested in something like that, because it's happening in the UK. So, unusual stuff. But this is what we found over the years that we've been doing Glass and Society. It's very much a networking exercise. I don't know. How did you hear about it, Janet? Would it have been through Gaynor Sharp?
Yes, it was, because I've done some work with her, presenting at ASE Association science.
Okay.
With things that I've done with Primary Science Teaching Trust. So just sharing ideas that we do in school and teaching the teachers.
Brilliant.
So we've worked with Gaynor, yes.
Oh, I've known Gaynor for too many years now. I think neither of us would probably need to be reminded, but it's quite a lot. And she has been very, very important in the development of this initiative in the West Midlands. So I'm extremely grateful to her, as I keep telling her. No, it's great to know how people heard about it. The grapevine is quite interesting. And of course, again, forgive me, those of us that have sat on one of these Zooms before, if you like the experience, tell your friends. Please network with other schools in your area. There are limits, of course, to the funding that we have. However, if you don't ask, you're never going to get. And the other thing to say, as I said in my sort of preamble, there are 110 livery companies, of which we are merely one. Some of them are richer than, well, Croesus probably. The liveries as a whole give something in excess of £70 million a year, a lot of it going to education. So it might be worth Googling livery companies and taking a look, because there's the scientific instrument makers, there's all sorts that may possibly be of use to you. I know you can't spend your time, doing nothing but trying to get money, but it's a good place to look, because there's plenty of it in a very, very small area, the square mile. And they're quite keen to actually reach out, not just to London, which is what most people think, but well, here we are today, so hopefully proof of that. Good stuff.
Janet, did I send you the details of the European Space Agency art competition?
Yes, you did.
As a kid? Oh, good.
Yes, and I've also spent some time looking on Wikipedia at the livery company.
Liveries,
oh, brilliant.
Okay,
great, lovely.
Janet, do you have any contact with Leicester, or is that too far out of your region? I was thinking particularly with space.
No, the space centre is obviously around there, and obviously because of restrictions of travel at the moment, that's not a trip that our children can enjoy during the cohort of Year 5 at the moment, and they have been previously, and there have been space camps held at the National Space Centre as well.
Oh, really?
Yes. But certainly for our experience of Space Camp, it's been great, because the tents are centrally purchased between the trust schools, as Mrs. Lewis was saying, and we share resources. So very often, I know we had, there was a photograph on the film the children made of a child with an iPad and looking at some sort of space module, and they're from cards that are just called, 4D space, basically. Yeah, we were able to pick some of those up because I presented at some an Ogden Trust teacher training day. So sometimes it's sometimes a bit of I scratch your back, you scratch mine, but by us putting a little input in and sharing what we have, we can get things that way. So certainly, yes, we share tents at the moment. We share data loggers, but we've only got 8 of those between 13 schools, which is a bit of a shame, really. And it's just cost implications of things. So it's just keeping our eyes out, really. And
very interesting, yes. Amanda, the project or the kit that we were supplying yesterday were data loggers, funnily enough. And I had to show my ignorance because I didn't know what one was, but I do now, so I can sit and happily,
they're instruments.
Yes,
they're instruments to measure sound or temperature, light.
Yes, brilliant.
Digital record that, but they're quite expensive, so you might be talking £1,000 for a class set of those to use, and so it's priorities. So because we'd used the Royal Microscopical Society loan system, which took us 2 or 3 years on a waiting list to get those, we used those really effectively, and children as young as 6 and 7 in Year 2 were absolutely sort of just in awe of what they were seeing through a microscope. And one of the learning scientific inquiry skills is observing closely and looking for patterns and things like that. So it's honing those skills of the children that they have, just grabbing hold of that passion and enthusiasm that they have to learn. As Mrs. Lewis said, they are like sponges, and if you give them the resources to do something, they just go for it. They've got that platform and they can leap with that, really. So we know, because we've already proved it in school, how effective for a very short term these microscopes were, that they can be embedded into the curriculum, and we can obviously loan those out to other trust schools as and when necessary as well.
Well, you're not going to have to give them back this time.
Well, that's the difference, isn't it? Yes. There's cupboard space for them. No.
Well, I hope so, yes. That's marvellous. Do you also, I mean, if you're clearly in Space Camp and so on, do you do Mission X as well, train to be an astronaut? Are you aware of that one?
We are aware of that, yes.
Yeah.
Certainly the Year 5 staff had started doing the space quality mark as well, pre-lockdown, and that does give them opportunity to take part in those projects. Yes, obviously that's been paused at the moment.
Of course.
And we will continue that when times allow. But
Brilliant.
it's just engaging, isn't it? I don't know which person once said, is it you hear and you forget, you see and you remember, you do and you understand. And I think not just science, but all areas of the curriculum, if we can embed that kinesthetic way of learning, that you're not just telling the children something, or they're not just watching it, they are actually doing it. And then they can, it just embeds what they're doing. It lets them go with their curiosity. It lets them ask further questions in whatever area of school it is, really. It's just developing their cultural and their educational cultural capital, as we call it.
Brilliant. Are there any questions from anybody else? Because I've done an awful lot of talking just for a change.
I'd like to ask a question. It may seem a very simplistic question, but do schools today have a nature table where children are encouraged to bring in items and then they become part of the lessons?
There are different units of work that are completed through the year. Certainly, as we're into summer now, coming up, we are doing more of animals and their habitats, how plants develop and grow, the life cycles, and the children are encouraged to explore the school environment. We're very fortunate that we've got a space in our school we call Paul's Place, named after a governor, and we have a polytunnel and different raised beds and things like that, and children get engaged with the nature watch type activities and the Great British Bird Watch, feeding the birds. We've got an eco council that go out there and things like that. So we do, yes, they can bring things in, and don't get me wrong, we've had infant children bring in worms in their hands first thing in the morning, and that's brilliant, but we will put those back in the soil before lessons start, and that's nice that they want to do that and share that. But we do spend a lot of time trying to learn in the outdoors, especially as some of our children will live in a flat, not a house, so they don't have that opportunity to have a garden. You can't just say to them, oh, go outside in the garden and try and find what lives in the soil. Can you find out? They haven't got that opportunity, so obviously we provide those in school for them.
Thank you. So you really take the children to nature rather than them spoiling nature and bringing it in. Thank you.
Are there any others?
Better to have the worms outside than in the classroom, I think.
Yes.
I've known primary schools where they have a little animal like a rat or a mouse or something in a cage, which they share taking home at weekends and so on. Is that the sort of thing that happens today, or is that out of date?
It does happen in many schools, yes. However, not ours. We're happy that other schools have many different pets, and I think it's just the suitability of the environment and who can responsibly look after those pets competently. True. And perhaps if it was a hamster or a gerbil, it might be nocturnal, so it doesn't want to have its sleep disturbed throughout the day and things like that. So it is possible. And schools that are set up with perhaps different quadrangle between different buildings and things that are completely secure. I mean, we have a lot of foxes that visit our garden, that visit our reception play area, so that any sort of outdoor rabbit or anything, that it'd be susceptible to being prey, really. So it's
Do you have much outdoor space?
We do. We're very fortunate. We have a very large field and 2 play areas, and reception have their own sort of play area, which is very outdoor learning with different tyre tracks and mounds for them to sit on and share stories and do their work and outdoor learning. Yes.
That's such a difference to us that have always been in London. I don't ever remember going in an outside playground at school.
I think the time has probably come for me to draw this most enjoyable session to a close. Thank you so much for sparing all this time on your second day back in school, which is probably the second busiest day of your year. It's wonderful to see the governors represented as well by Mark, and the enthusiasm of Janet for her subject it just flows out. The video was absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
As I said earlier, I think now some of your children know more than many of us do about some of the things that go on in the world. Very inspiring, and it's wonderful the way you sort of unlock their natural curiosity and develop their enthusiasm. It's just so encouraging to see. I was also very impressed to learn about the degree of cooperation within the trust, sharing equipment and outings and this, that and the other, and I'm sure that's a very important thing for schools, primary schools in particular, to be doing when resources are short. We are giving you a little. Lee has explained to you why we can't give you one of the 70 million, because we're not that rich a company. But we're always here. Do come back again. I look at the chairman of the charity trust. His jaw is dropping as I invite you to come back for more money.
Absolutely, definitely. Love it. If you've got the enthusiasm there, Master, you know that we're always happy to deal with enthusiastic people.
Of course. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you for attending, those of you that have from the company, and best of luck to HollyField Primary School and its endeavours to expand their children's knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for having us. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. And on that note, we'll leave you all to get on with the rest of your afternoons.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.